And now we move on to the next segment of our bulletin, On the Table. Now over to you, Brendan.
Good evening and welcome back to On the Table, where we discuss current issues making the news. So today we welcome back to the studio Dr. Muhammad Afzal Nizam Abdul Rashid, Chief Economist of Bank Muamalat Malaysia Berhad. Now welcome back to the show, sir.
Most welcome.
All right, so now the Central Database Hub, Padu. You know, Padu is all the talks for this week, right? Now, this is, of course, the unity government's latest initiatives to properly identify and send out assistance to those who deserve them. Hence, of course, targeted subsidy recipients, right? So who are we looking at here? The M40 groups, the B40 groups, or are we just looking away from these categories?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think, as you mentioned, I think we are trying to move away from that categorization, M40, B40, T20 and whatnot, because those numbers are very headline in nature, but it doesn't tell you much in terms of the components of the expenditure being spent on by these households. What are the typical consumptions and perhaps some information on their debt obligations. So on that note, perhaps Padu would have a better sense of the financial positions of our society. So on that, based on that information, then any form of assistance can be designed, can be targeted, and hopefully those who are the recipients of this cash aid would be beneficial. Yeah.
Right, okay, cool. So this registration drive is definitely crucial for the government to identify so that targeted subsidies can be reached out to those in need, right? However, there will be pockets of societies in particular, of course, you're talking about the rural areas, who are probably not too keen on, getting themselves registered for this Padu initiative. So some folks are going to be left out. Is it true? Your thoughts on this?
Well, I think my sense is that I think the government needs to go to the ground and perhaps mobilize their machinery effectively and at least try to tell about the benefits of having Padu, get yourself registered, and that way, that's how you will be able to get all these cash aids or any forms of financial assistance from the government. And perhaps there could be some misinformation among our society, especially those who are in the rural areas. And not to mention also challenges arising from the access to internet connections.
Right.
So this is where I think the role of the government needs to go there and really reach out to those the target audience.
Okay, let's not talk about rural areas as a whole as well. The urban areas.
Okay.
The young people out there, they're probably not too keen to get themselves registered as well, because they feel that, okay, look, if I get myself registered, if I don't get myself registered, it'll probably be the same, right? So I don't think that's the case, but your thoughts on this, and how do you think you would actually advise the younger people who are watching today to get themselves registered as well?
Well, I think, again, there must be some form of campaigns by the government. I think there's a certain timeline, right, for our Malaysians to be registered in Padu systems. And along the way, I think there could be some programs and some more leaflets or informations to be dished out so that people would know what Padu is all about. And also perhaps by addressing challenges in terms of the systems, the infrastructure, to make the registration experience more seamless.
Right.
That could be a step in the right directions, I would say.
Right, I think it would be too. Just make it easy for them to get themselves registered so that they would actually just do it, right? Now, this implementation of target subsidies, of course, through Padu, is expected to reduce fiscal deficit. We're talking about 3 to 3.5% of GDP by next year, 2025. So is this a realistic time frame, or should we look for something that is further as compared to next year?
Of course, these targets is always a moving targets because in order for you to achieve your deficits, there are many permutations and there are many macroeconomic variables that can change the scenarios. For instance, our GDP growth targets. I mean, recently the World Bank has actually revised down their global growth forecast to around 2.4% this year. So us, Malaysia, as an open economy, we are all very susceptible to any gyrations in external demand. That could change the trajectory of the fiscal deficit. But having said that, by having the stated targets, at least it clears out the timeline to achieve such trajectory. And Padu essentially is one of the means to ensure that whatever the government spend on subsidies will be targeted. So I think if you can do that, then there could be some savings along the way, which can be redirected to other things, which can be very productive in the long term. So that's how I think Padu can help become a mechanism so that there will be savings along the way that can actually reduce our budget deficit. But the target itself, I think, is just statements, the directions of the government position going forward.
All right. So will this direction be compromised if Padu's numbers with regards to everybody who's going to be registered under Padu, if that's compromised, would this be compromised as well when it comes to its trajectory towards 2025 with this mission and objectives?
I don't see it that way because to me, Padu is an improvement to the existing systems. The existing system, I mean, the database that we have at the moment is scattered around in various government agencies, which I think they can still leverage on in order for them to dish out all this assistance.
So Padu is more towards fine-tuning the whole system altogether. Right. Okay, fantastic. So what about addressing issues like reducing hardcore poverty in the country? Is focusing on focused subsidies a solid solution, or do we need to do more?
Well, subsidies is one of the agenda, definitely. Because what we know from subsidies is that, especially on fuel subsidies, the ones who are in the high income categories are the ones who are actually benefiting it.
Okay.
So by rationalizing this subsidies move, like I said earlier on, is to make sure that there could be some savings because there will be a more targeted recipients of this assistance. So those who are not qualified will be, left out. I mean, obviously those who are the ones who are in the high income categories. So with that excess or savings, like I said, can be directed to other economic development agenda.
Right.
So that's how, along the way, along with other economic policies, that's how we can address poverty in a holistic manner.
That's another way to look at it, a brilliant way to look at it. Thank you so much for sharing that. So upon identifying these targeted subsidy groups, so do we still need direct cash aid moving forward, or do you think that when it comes to aid is going to be an form of aid, but it could be a form of cash, it could be a form of other sort of aid. So what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think you need to break it into certain timelines. I mean, obviously, if you talk about short term, cash aid is the most effective solutions. But of course, we need to set certain targets that all this recipient of cash aid, at some point, it will reduce. Reduce in the sense that because other policies become successful in terms of elevating the standard of living of our societies. Meaning we are able to, in economic, we call it as a social outward mobility. Let's say we invest in educations and we are able to produce more graduates that are highly capable, highly employable, and they would get a better jobs. Then you can, escape from the poverty trap. So that's how I look at it in terms of the targets of the recipient of cash aid, that at some point it has to be reduced. So that's how we see in the short term we want to help the current predicaments. But going forward with all this investment in education, in healthcare and infrastructure, maybe in 1 decade's time we are able to be better in terms of a standard of living.
Right. So in the long run, obviously we have to look at the impact and the effect of such subsidies and strategies moving forward. These changes are indicative of a positive economic outcomes for everybody, right? So the burning question is, will it help the public in tackling the rising cost of living?
Well, okay.
That's a tricky question.
It's true. It's always, there's a trade-off in anything that we do. Just like, if you decide you want to lose weight by 10 kg, for instance, obviously you need to sacrifice your sugar intake.
That's true, your carbs.
You have to do your cardio exercise. So those are very painful experience, right? So similarly, in the case of subsidy rationalizations, it means that you want to reduce your subsidy subsidies, then eventually there will be some knock-on effects in terms of prices. Prices will go up to some degree. But the thing is, with that savings from the subsidies, that's how the cash aid can be increased more,
right?
Like we saw in the allocation of our budgets. And like I said earlier on, is the excess or the savings from the subsidies can be channeled back to investment in education, in infrastructure, which I think can benefit our Malaysians in the long run.
Right, okay. Doctor, now before we go, Doctor, could you please take a look at the camera and give your views again and tell them why, once again, that they should get themselves registered for Padu?
Well, get yourself registered so that you will be on the radar and you are able to enjoy the government assistance in a manner that is more effective and more holistic.
Nice, nice. Short and sweet. Thank you so much, Doctor, for being on the show. Dr. Afzal Nizam, I'm afraid that's all the time we have today, and we appreciate all the insights and all the infos that you have shared with us. So we hope that it would definitely bear fruit for you and your family at home. So thank you once again for all the wonderful insights that you have shared with us. Dr. Afzal Nizam, now back to you.